Hello, it's Donut, and in this video I'm going to go over all the variables that go into Nitro Gain and how they work together. These are speed, tension, and the drift button. Tension is the least obvious one, which is why I covered it in depth in my other tutorial. Speed is the most obvious variable. In general, more speed results in faster Nitro Gain. For reference, on a flat road, max speed using Nitro is around 236 for a common grade kart. Without Nitro, the max speed is about 180. Without speed, we have no momentum to keep drifting. Try to build up speed first before drifting. If you're already going fast, focus on building tension to set up your drift. Most tracks aren't flat. They have elevation changes resulting in driving uphill or downhill. Because gravity exists, these inclines affect your speed and consequently Nitro Gain. When drifting uphill, compensate for the speed loss by maximizing tension when doing longer drifts. In this example, I drift uphill using cut charge and snaking with cut drift. Swift cut is useful for narrow uphill sections like on log leap. Conversely, you go faster going downhill, resulting in faster Nitro Gain. Maps like Gold Rush and Snowbound Slopes are mostly downhill. High tension drifts combined with downhill speeds results in extremely fast Nitro Gain. A lot of maps have a combination of uphill and downhill sections. Let's examine how this affects our drift choice in this Bayside Bridge line. The on-ramp is uphill. I do a short full, but it only fills about 80%. At the top of the ramp, I use Swift Cut to fill the rest. On this flat section of the bridge, I can maintain a high speed during this snake line. With high tension, I can build around 70% Nitro with normal cut and fill the rest with Swift Cut. The second half of the bridge is slightly uphill, which slows me down, resulting in lower Nitro Gain. I'm only getting 50% Nitro on each drift, so I snake using only cut drift this time. The off-ramp is a long downhill section. With the additional speed, I can use short full twice to quickly build 2 bars. On tracks with frequent turns, it's difficult to maintain high speeds. In these cases, you can fill a bar on successive turns. Try to get 1 Nitro from 2 turns. Do your best to build tension on each drift to compensate for the lower speed. The drift button's relationship to nitro gain is related to speed, but on a circular path. When you hold down the drift button longer to do a U-turn, your momentum is maintained throughout the drift, so you don't lose too much speed. The main thing that slows you down is friction. In circular motion, you can actually gain speed, forcing the cart into a tighter curve. This is why double drift is so good for U-turns. In physics terms, the conservation of angular momentum applies to KartRider's drifting and affects drift speed and nitro gain. You can Google that. Holding down the drift button for too long like this slows you down significantly, but you should never have to do this. When we drift, notice the initial gain is very quick, then slows down. Nitro gain is fastest at the start of the drift. For a U-turn drift, this initial fast nitro fill rate lasts longer because holding the drift button forces the cart into a tight circular path. The nitro fill rate towards the end of the drift is very slow due to the deceleration from the sharp cart angle of the drift. For a 90-degree turn, I don't hold the drift button as long, so the circular path is not as tight. As a result, the initial nitro fill rate is not as fast compared to a U-turn. However, the nitro fill rate towards the end of the drift is not as slow as the U-turn. This is because the overall drift speed is higher, resulting in a more consistent fill rate. As a result, the difference in nitro gain with the drift button is not as significant in comparison to speed and tension. Essentially, the most impactful parts of nitro gain occur before the drift even begins. When learning, focus on setting up speed and tension before drifting. Tension is actually the most important variable because it is impactful at all speeds. Before you even consider touching the drift button at any point, take tension into account until it becomes second nature. This also applies to smaller drifts like short drift and swift cut. For longer drifts, just hold the drift button long enough to complete a turn. Ideally, we want to use the speed from Nitro to get another Nitro. For new players, save your Nitro for turns instead of on straights when you have a nearly empty bar. That's until you learn to snake drift, of course. Use Nitro early to build up speed, then build tension by pre-turning or short drift when you're near the turn. To improve short full nitro gain, pre-turn before you short drift. You can countersteer your short drift to ensure you don't slip into a full drift. On this turn I didn't pre-turn as long, so I didn't need to countersteer the short drift. And that's the end of this video. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching.